Hey, we're finally outside. Yes, they do occasionally let me out in the yard. I didn't realize how noisy this environment was. I guess I just sort of got used to it. We have a busy street on one side of the property, and then 2 streets over is the interstate. So hopefully the sound is clear enough. I am looking at different kinds of wireless collar mics, lavalier, I guess they call them. Let me know if you have any recommendations on those, or just let me know how the sound is. This will give me an opportunity to at least do some cutting snippets. But for today, well, I might disappoint you. We're going to start a little small. A little small. All right. I was planning a video on the difference between cutting and slashing, especially in Japanese style swordsmanship. And then I realized, well, I should probably do something first as a separate topic, because when people say the word slashing, there's actually 2 different concepts, dynamics that come up. One of which is what most people would consider, shall we say, a draw cut, not necessarily chopping or cutting through with the edge, but drawing and using the edge as a slicing instrument, versus tip slashing, which is actually, well, shall we say, tip cutting, a quick, light action that lashes out specifically just with the first inch or so of the weapon. With a Japanese style sword, we're talking hitting them with the kasaki. Now, when Musashi talked about the difference between cutting and slashing, I think this is what he was talking about when he used the term ate or atemi, which is often equated with a slash, light strike, jab, hazing action in different kinds of Japanese style martial arts. Musashi described it as the difference between a decisive contact and more like just reaching out and touching the opponent. And he said that could still be a very effective action. It's quick, it's fast, it tends to get into places unexpectedly, it can be used to injure the corners, it can startle the opponent, make him react, you could take advantage of that. It could injure him in such a way that, again, he reacts or overreacts, you could take advantage of. It could partially even impact, disable his ability to continue fighting, and if you get a really good one, it might even be a fight ender, but that was not something he was ever counting on. He would use it usually in combination to get himself in to be able to get that decisive cut. And the reason why I don't think he was talking about the longer drawing cut is he describes that in his, well, descriptions of other kinds of cuts that I'll talk about in other videos. Now, one of the things I found about tip cutting is it's really effective in a lot of forms of fencing, and you even see it in like sport, Olympic style saber quite a bit, or HEMA, a lot of different arts that do rely on that quick ability to just get a quick, fast tip, or the first couple of inches of the blade through a guard and make contact, hopefully in an area that's going to have some good effect that you can then follow up on. So what I wanted to do today is kind of demonstrate this, a little bit of science. I got myself some heavy-duty cardboard from a recent purchase. So I'm going to do a test, yes, outside for the first time. We'll see how the camera and the sound holds up, let me know. But I'm going to use a variety of different bladed instruments. I'm going to use Japanese-style swords that have, well, longer and shorter kasaki. See how those perform, and then go to some Western-style swords, some straight blades, which are not necessarily, well, very good at slashing. They tend to be more thrust or chop-style impact, so this will be definitely more for them of a tip cut. See what that does to the same target if I use basically the same angle, the same speed, the same force. And then we'll go to some swords that, we'll start with some swords actually that are definitely not good cutters, like some of my rapiers, and then move up to some that are considered cut and thrust. And then, well, what if I change the dynamic to different kinds of more curved swords? Or, well, we'll even take a look at shorter blades. So, well, let's see how it goes. Okay, long kasaki first. As you can see, it's not very far away from the wall, so I can't cut deeply, just with about the first inch. I'm not going to cut very hard, but I'm going to do them all at the same angle. Yeah. That was just a touch. Triple wall corrugated cardboard. Oh yeah, that's easily all the way through. Now, let me try it with something with, well, pretty short Kawasaki. Same exact cut. Well, right next to it. And not a whole lot of difference. Yeah, I'm not cutting hard. I'm really just using a little bit of momentum. And, well, the mechanics of the sword itself. Let's check out a couple of other ones. All right, let's go right ahead to the sword I expect to do the worst. And this is kind of the point of the tip slash. Okay, that was a bad pun. This is my Cold Steel Cavalier. Best attempts to put an edge on it completely failed because that diamond is just way too steep. You're talking about a 45 degree, well, maybe a 40 degree edge. So yeah, it's not very sharp at all. But let's see what just the tip can do. Again, a very similar cut. Yeah, okay, so it did it. It's ragged. It got all the way through. But obviously resistance, it didn't get far. Let me move up in cutting angle just a little bit. And we'll talk about what this one can do. This is the Christus Imperit, which also has a fairly stout diamond cross section, but maybe 30-35 degrees. I did manage to put a little bit more of an edge on it, so let's see what this one can do. Quite a bit better. I mean, it was cleaner. Took down the target. But it's a good time to take a look at the other side of it here. Yeah, they're getting through it, no problem. But yeah, you can make a decent cut with a rapier depending on the tip shape and exactly how you catch it. There I am. Let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of swords I expect to do well better than that. All right. Windlass Munich. This is one I put, well, a halfway decent apple seed on it. So it's not quite a diamond cross section, not quite an oval. Let's see how this one does. This one has a lot of mass too. I might rip the cardboard down again. See if I can get right between these two. Yep. Kind of a nice balance between impact and slice, I would say. Tried a couple of other edges. All right, see if some bigger nails will do the trick. I know some of you rapier fans are going to want to see this one. This is the Musketeer, which I consider a good cutting rapier. Let's see how it does in that tip slash, shall we? Pretty good. Again, for me, those stouter blades, they do the slash through the target. They do a pretty deep cut, but you'll also see there's a lot of resistance. There's a lot of ripping, and that also translates to, well, impact on the target, which is not necessarily a bad thing, right? Take a look at one more. For contrast, my side sword project has a pretty slim blade, not super razor sharp, but totally different profile. So let's give that a shot. Oh yeah. That looked a lot more like the katana. But you'll notice there's a bit of resistance deformation at the very end of the slash that I didn't get with the katana. Do it again. See if I can get it right in between. How about that? Oh yeah. Same kind of result. Very much a razor cut. Starts to run out of steam a little bit, and I think that's all about, well, blade shape. Let's take a look at a couple more. All right, my feeling is it's not just about the shape of the blade, but, well, straight or curved. Straight swords are capable more of chopping cuts, not necessarily as naturally good in the slash without the ability to draw, and I'm certainly not using any draw. So one of the things that definitely happens here is once that angle of attack starts pulling it away from, well, the kind of draw angle of the edge into more of a strike, yeah, that's where it tends to dump the energy into the target. So let's take a look at something gently curved, my 1860. Does not have the greatest edge. Kind of an oval cross section. Let's take a look at it and see what it does. Again, about the same kind of cut, same angle. Yeah. I felt a lot less resistance. A little bit of tear deformation. Again, it's not the sharpest sword that I have, but I didn't see the little twisty bits towards the end. Let's try another one. All right, the semi-improved Market Garden, 1796. Very steep curve. Pretty good edge, fairly thin blade, but as you can see, it's not a very acute tip. But then neither was the short Kawasaki Japanese style sword. So let's see what it does. Right next to it. Yep. You'll notice though, I was aiming here. Cut starts here because again, that's kind of the adjustment for me with a really curved sword. I'm used to the point being somewhere and then it's not there until I train with it for a while, but definitely a cleaner and somewhat longer cut. Let me change one more variable really quick. Cold steel Halwar. Reasonable edge, reasonable curve, kind of between those two. But because of grip shape and what that does to your ability to extend, it's definitely going to change my slashing mechanics. So going right next to it, let's see what this one does. I've got to change my arm angle significantly to do this. Oh boy. Yeah. That one was pretty deep and effortless. I was kind of surprised it did that well. Let's throw in a few more while I've got the cardboard up, huh? Now, as I mentioned, I'm really not putting a lot of power into these. I'm basically raising the blade up a little bit and using just a little bit of oomph combined with its own weight and momentum to do that cut. So I'm not hitting hard. This is something you can do short and quick. How would this compare to a knife? Well, let's start with my old friend, the Gerber Mark II, and we'll do a similar movement to compare. Well, it did deflect off the target, so this part of it's really shallow. This part got through it. However, with a knife, I'm able to do a bit of a cheat, not necessarily putting a lot of muscle power into it, but yeah, I did a snap cut. Let's do that side by side with another old friend, the K-bar. Yeah, pretty close. One more old friend. What about something that has more of a, well, modern tanto point? I haven't done a review on this knife yet. It's a Taylor Sato that I picked up probably at a flea market once upon a time. But side by side, how does that tip shape, this is also very hollow ground, how does that compare? Pretty close. Let's take a look at a couple of others. I'm gonna run out of clean cardboard space. I know I'm being a little stingy with it. In another video, I'll let loose on a couple of sheets when I acquire some new ones. A couple of knives I've reviewed, modified or otherwise. This is the BK7, pretty much unmodified. I've occasionally had to touch up the edge, but that's about it. It is certainly a stouter, broader knife. Side by side, let's see what it does. Let's see if I can kind of go between some cuts here a little bit lower. Yeah, it's a bit more sword-like. I mean, if you're talking about length of cut on average, so far that one's come the closest. How about the cold steel OSS that I, well, did some reprofiling to? I'll put that one right next to that one. This one's got that sub-hilt. It's a fairly straight hollow ground blade. Not very heavy, but kind of thin. Pretty good cut. All right, one more knife. Let's talk about, well, someone would argue this is a tourist kukri, thick spine, slab sides. It does have taper. Now, I selected specifically the 8-inch blade for this test, so it's kind of at least a similar size to the other knife. But yeah, shape, weight, and, well, edge geometry, totally different. In comparison, what do you get? Oh my. Okay, now that I got the cardboard down, let's kind of look at both sides of it. Hello, there we are. You don't want to see me, you want to see the cardboard. All right, so what we've got is, we'll take a look at some of these sword cuts first. All right, so way over here, we started with the 2 katana all the way out on my right. Turn that around. These cuts are pretty clean on the other side. Like I said, this is the triple wall stuff, so it's pretty thick. Then we certainly compared that to a couple of, well, things I didn't think were going to do quite as well, and you can certainly see that there is more ripping on this side, but they absolutely got through. Moving over to, well, some of the other swords we tested, yeah, you can definitely see what we did with a couple of these. I'll give it a closer shot. I'll flip it over. Okay, a whole lot more ripping on the back, and again, I think that's just the way a straight blade dumps energy, does more impact, and in this case, tearing, versus going to, okay, a couple of those really curved swords like the 1796 and the Talwar. Yeah, very, very clean cuts all the way through. Now the knives, well, it depends on the knife, but you don't quite see that same kind of ripping energy dumping. Cuts on the other side are pretty darn clean. So, let me know if this is something you want to see more of, any particular knives or swords that you would like, shall we say, tested like this or similar, and I will also demonstrate them cutting other targets. But I definitely wanted to take the opportunity to demonstrate, well, what a tip/tip cut could do. Hopefully it was useful and helpful information. Let me know in the comments.